I rise to offer my no vote explanation. This morning I woke up, as we all do, and get myself ready for coming to Lansing. Kissed my wife goodbye as she went to school to teach at Flushing High School. Got my son ready and drove him to the U of M Flint Early Childhood Center. I walked in, as I do every day when I'm dropping him off, and I looked at a number of really diligent, hard-working, dedicated people who wake up every day trying to help educate, nurture, and love children that are not their own. They were bending over, sitting at a small little table, giving kids of all different ages and a snack this morning and a glass of milk. Later on in the day, they were going to walk outside in a secure area and play with children, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. They're going to come back inside and have story time sitting on the ground, educating children. And I can tell you, not a one of them, when I asked them this morning, do you think a gun in your back pocket would be helpful to you educating or nurturing these children? Not a one of the secretaries or people that opened the doors said that they thought they'd feel more safe with one of their colleagues carrying a weapon under their clothing. Many of you know this, probably most of you by now, because obviously we know each other and respect each other well. We just have, I think, a fundamental philosophical difference on this issue. That before I came here, I spent about 5 years teaching, first in the Carmen Ainsworth School District, student teaching at the high school, then a long-term subbing job at the middle school. Then I taught at an alternative middle school in the city of Flint, and then I taught at Flint Northern. Many of you, maybe the last time you were involved in school was when you were there. Myself and the senator from the 5th District, I believe the only educators in the room. I can describe to you what a day is like. You get there in the morning, maybe you have a staff meeting, maybe you're talking to colleagues, maybe you're talking to colleagues on your team about what you're going to teach that day and how the subject matter may relate to science or math or English. You welcome your kids in, you say hello to them, ask them how their weekend was if it's a Monday, ask them how their day was if it's the rest of the week. Many of which in my classrooms hadn't eaten anything, or if they did, they had a breakfast similar to what my good colleague and good friend from the 1st District eats, which is hot Cheetos and a pop. Definitely weren't preparing themselves for, definitely weren't necessarily prepared for a long, strenuous day of being educated. You educate them on the subject of the day. Inevitably, something will happen. Another teacher will come in, another student will come in, a kid will ask to go to the bathroom. You're walking to the back of the room, you walk into your desk, a fire alarm happens. You're trying to corral 25 kids to go outside, you're keeping an eye on them. These are not high-stress situations. These are just everyday activities in a classroom. I can tell you, in everyday situations, the last thing I'm thinking about when I'm teaching 25-year-old kids, when I'm bending down to make sure that I can help that student, when I'm breaking up a fight, I'll give you an example. I broke up a fight when I was teaching. The one student is now an NFL player, a running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Even back then, he was much bigger than me, and it's very difficult, as you can see from your own eyes, to be much bigger than me. And I was breaking up a kid like this and another kid like this, completely exposed, if somebody wanted to grab me. Even if I was a person who's had a lot of experience with firearms. That is not exactly an easy situation to make sure you're protecting yourself, protecting those 2 children. I was in another teacher's classroom who happened to be in a wheelchair, protecting him and making sure that my gun is secure. I think one of the things we have to realize when we pass these bills or potentially pass these bills are the consequences of these bills on the people that we're passing them on. We're talking about now bringing more guns into daycare centers. We're talking about bringing more guns into preschools, into public, charter, and potentially private schools, into arenas, and into establishments that sole purpose is to get you drunk. Let me give you some facts real quick. In America, you are 25 times more likely to be murdered by a gun than in any advanced country in the world. Children 4 and under are 34 times more likely to be killed by a gun in this country. I know what your intentions are. I am not questioning your motives. I respect the individuals that introduced this bill, and I respect what they're intending to do. But the facts don't add up. After year after year after year with more and more gun violence, you think we would have learned by now. The reality, not what we hope the reality to be, not what we see in the movies. Real life is not an action movie. I know we'd like it to be. I know we'd wish it would be, but it's not. The reality is you're much more likely to have an accident in a preschool, in a daycare center, in a school. You're much more likely to leave your jacket with your gun in it in the bathroom, which has happened multiple times. Trained individuals, assistant prosecutors in Macomb County, police officers even make that mistake. You're much more likely to accidentally shoot a law enforcement personnel, another teacher, a janitor, or heaven forbid, a child. I just ask that we think about these things when we pass legislation going forward, and even today, obviously. As I said before, I understand what the intent is, I understand what the rationale is. I just think you're wrong. That's the beautiful thing about our society. We can sit up here and debate about issues that are important, but I can tell you from someone who was in the classroom, you're not helping me. You're hindering my ability to educate those children. I know you don't think you are, but you are. Colleagues, I urge a no vote on this. If the Lieutenant Governor would permit me on this bill, on Senate Bill 585 and 586 as well. And I ask that my remarks be printed in the journal. Thank you very much.